Welcome to our show, Hong Kong Brief. Today, we have some intriguing stories lined up for you. First up, Chinese property stocks have seen a significant surge as the government considers a plan to buy millions of unsold homes from distressed developers. This proposal has lifted investor spirits, although some remain cautious about its long-term impact on the market recovery. Next, Hong Kong's bus fleet is gearing up for a greener future. The world's largest bus manufacturer, Alexander Dennis, is focusing on developing more electric bus models to help Hong Kong achieve its zero-emission goals by 2050. The first batch of these eco-friendly buses has already hit the streets, marking a significant step towards cleaner public transportation. Lastly, a spy case involving the manager of Hong Kong's trade office in London has fueled calls for the closure of these offices. Protesters argue that the trade offices, which were established during British colonial rule, should not enjoy diplomatic immunity and have become proxies for Beijing's influence. Legislation to close these offices is currently pending in Congress. Please stay tuned for more detailed coverage on these stories. Bloomberg. The shares of Chinese developers surged following the news that Beijing might introduce policy support for purchasing unsold homes from distressed builders. A Bloomberg gauge of Chinese real estate stocks soared by up to 10.7%, reaching its highest level since December 2023. Major developers like Longfor Group Holdings Limited and China Vanke Company saw significant gains of 15% and 16%, respectively. The proposal under consideration involves local governments buying millions of unsold homes, one of the most ambitious attempts to revive the struggling property market. Although the plan is still being debated and could take months to finalize, analysts like J.P. Morgan Chase's Carl Chan see it as a potentially exciting move, albeit with some skepticism about its scale. Recent measures to support the sector include the removal of home purchase restrictions in major cities. However, a large quantity of unsold homes due to low demand remains a pressing issue. New home prices in 70 cities fell by 2.7% in March from a year earlier, and the value of new home sales from the top 100 real estate companies dropped by 45%. Raymond Ching of CGS International Securities HK estimates that 1.8 trillion yuan in funding would be needed if 5 million units were bought from developers. Nikkei Asia. Protesters in London have called for the closure of Hong Kong Economic and Trade Offices, HKETOs, following the arrest of the organization's manager on espionage charges. The fear of surveillance is high among the Hong Kong diaspora, especially after the city's government offered a reward for information on 13 wanted fugitives, including activist Fin Lau. The HKETO officer-manager Yuan Chung Baiu, along with Wai Chi Liang and Matthew Trickett, were charged with assisting a foreign intelligence service and foreign interference, casting a spotlight on the trade office's functions. Activists and advocacy groups are questioning the presence and diplomatic immunity of these offices. In the U.S., where similar legislation is being considered, the charges have reignited debates about the HKETO's roles. The Hong Kong Democracy Council's executive director Anna Kwok stated that the UK charges validate suspicions that the offices are used for political purposes. The bill to close the offices in Washington, New York, and San Francisco is currently on hold as the U.S. focuses on other international issues. Meanwhile, Hong Kong Chief Executive John Lee warned against interfering with the work of the ETOs, claiming it would harm free trade and the economy. South China Morning Post. Alexander Dennis, the world's largest double-decker bus manufacturer, is steering Hong Kong's bus fleet towards electrification to meet the city's decarbonization goals. The British firm, which already accounts for over two-thirds of Hong Kong's existing bus fleet, is now focusing on developing electric buses. Their first electric double-decker bus, the Enviro 500 EV, recently started service with Kowloon Motor Bus, KMB. This model can carry 122 passengers and travel 350 kilometers after a 2-hour charge, meeting over 80% of KMB's daily operating needs. Although the electric buses are about 60% more expensive than their diesel counterparts due to battery costs, the shift is expected to improve Hong Kong's air quality. KMB aims to upgrade its entire fleet to new energy buses by 2040, aligning with the government's zero-emission target. Alexander Dennis also plans to introduce other battery-powered vehicles, including the Enviro 100 EV, a small single-decker bus ideal for various transport needs. The company is building a prototype in Zhuhai, which will arrive in Hong Kong in October, leveraging local manufacturing to reduce costs while maintaining high-quality European components. South China Morning Post: authorities in Hong Kong are being urged to implement measures to identify high-risk families with members who have mental disabilities, following a series of tragic murder-suicide incidents. Social welfare leaders, including lawmaker Tik Chi-yuan, emphasize the need for proactive identification and support systems to prevent further tragedies. Tik suggests that healthcare professionals could ask a few additional questions during patient intake to detect high-risk families, while schools could play a role by monitoring students' family situations. Martin Wong Weihung, chairman of the Hong Kong Joint Council of Parents of the Mentally Handicapped, highlights the immense pressure faced by carers and advocates for the introduction of case managers to coordinate support from various welfare units. The recent case in Kwai Fong, where a 58-year-old woman and her 32-year-old son with mental disabilities were found dead, underscores the urgent need for targeted support and resources for families with intellectually disabled members. South China Morning Post: Shenergy Group, Shanghai's main natural gas supplier, is constructing facilities to convert kitchen waste into green methanol, aiming to fuel ships and reduce pollution. The facilities, expected to be operational by the end of 2025, will produce 70,000 to 100,000 tons of green methanol annually. Green methanol, a low-carbon liquid fuel, is produced from sustainable biomass or from carbon dioxide and hydrogen generated from renewable electricity. Shenergy's vice president, Shiping Yang, notes that the company has a vast natural gas infrastructure network to support this initiative, making the technique commercially viable. Shanghai, which generates about 7,000 tons of kitchen waste daily, has been a pioneer in waste sorting and disposal, with a compulsory waste sorting system implemented in 2019. The city's efforts align with President Xi Jinping's calls for effective waste management, aiming to reduce secondary pollution and enhance resource utilization. South China Morning Post: Craig Chan Chung-ho, a referee aiming to represent Hong Kong at the Paris Olympics, is set to oversee the women's rugby sevens tournament, marking a significant milestone in his career. Chan, who has been refereeing on the Women's World Series circuit since 2022, will also officiate in the Madrid Grand Finals and the Olympic repechage in Monaco. Reflecting on his journey, Chan recalls how he reluctantly began refereeing in 2016 after a finger injury prevented him from playing. Initially discouraged by the pressures of officiating, he was persuaded to continue by Matt Rodden, head of refereeing in Hong Kong. Chan, who also coaches rugby in schools and works as an insurance salesman, hopes his Olympic assignment will inspire fellow Hong Kongers to see rugby as an inclusive sport. He aspires to officiate in Elite 15s matches and become a role model for future referees, following in the footsteps of Rodden and Gabriel Li Wingyi. South China Morning Post: Amy Yip Chimay, a legendary figure in Hong Kong's soft porn film industry, has remained a fascinating and enigmatic personality even after a 30-year hiatus from the silver screen. Known for her roles in Erotic Ghost Story and Sex and Zen, Yip managed to captivate audiences without fully baring herself, a feat that earned her the moniker Yip Tease. Despite her long absence, recent public sightings of Yip have sparked rumors of a potential comeback. Now 57 years old, she still maintains her stunning looks and iconic figure. Reflecting on her career, Yip expressed no desire to return to sexploitation films, instead hoping for roles that would allow her to showcase her acting skills. Her brief but impactful career spanned from 1988 to 1994, during which she appeared in over 30 films, including a notable performance in Queen of the Underworld. Yip's sudden retirement in 1997 was influenced by her relationship with orthopedic surgeon Sammy Louis Sekchiu, with whom she spent 26 years until his death in 2018. Despite the challenges and the mean-spirited attention she faced, Yip fondly remembers her time in the industry and hints at a carefully considered return to acting. South China Morning Post, Angela Zhang, an associate professor at the University of Hong Kong, warns that Beijing's heavy-handed intervention in the tech sector could stifle economic dynamism. In her book, High Wire: How China Regulates Big Tech and Governs Its Economy, Zhang argues that while the crackdown on tech firms aimed to curb barbaric growth and disorderly expansion of capital, it also led to unintended consequences such as economic slowdown and unemployment. The regulatory storm, which began in late 2020, wiped out trillions in value from tech giants and halted major IPOs. As China faces a tech war with the US, Zhang advises a balanced approach that empowers private tech firms, which are crucial for innovation and growth. She highlights the importance of private sector dynamism in technological advancements and expresses skepticism about the efficiency of state investments. Despite the challenges, Zhang believes it is only a matter of time before China catches up with global leaders in AI and semiconductors, thanks to its strong resource mobilization capabilities. She also notes that the Chinese government is unlikely to impose strict AI regulations, given its deep involvement in the ecosystem. The Toronto Star, Canadian Olympic swimmers like Maggie McNeil and Kylie Mass face a unique challenge as they prepare for the Paris Olympics without their personal coaches by their side. Swim coaches selected for the Canadian Olympic team must live and work in Canada, a rule that excludes many top athletes' coaches who are based abroad. This situation has led to medal hopefuls competing without the guidance of the coaches who have been instrumental in their success. Only 17-year-old Summer McIntosh is expected to have her American coach, Brent Arkey, named to the team, a move that some swimmers believe should be extended to others. Swimming Canada's high-performance director, John Atkinson, acknowledges the need for a balance between supporting top athletes and developing the next generation of swimmers. While the inclusion of McIntosh as coach for the World Championships was a significant step, the organization faces constraints with limited accreditations. As the Olympic trials approach, athletes like McNeil and Pickram hope for more flexibility in the rules to ensure they have the best possible support in Paris. CBC: As Vladimir Putin arrives in Beijing for a two-day state visit, the focus is on how far China will go to support Russia amid increasing U.S. pressure. This visit, Putin's first foreign trip since his recent inauguration, follows U.S. warnings to China about repercussions for aiding Russia's military through technology exports. Alexander Gabeau from the Carnegie Russia-Eurasia Center highlights the importance of underwater elements of the visit, focusing on finding safe ways around sanctions. Despite a significant trade surge between China and Russia, recent drops in trade indicate the impact of U.S. threats. Chinese banks are cautious, and the U.S. has sanctioned several Chinese companies for aiding Russia's military. The visit will test the limits of the once no-limits partnership as both nations seek workarounds to continue their cooperation. The Globe and Mail: As Canada prepares for the possibility of a Trump re-election, Defense Minister Bill Blair emphasizes the importance of looking beyond the White House to defend Canadian interests. Blair highlights the significance of enduring partnerships with Congress, the judiciary, and institutions like the U.S. Armed Forces. During a recent visit to Washington, Blair met with U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin and Senator Tim Kaine to discuss defense policies, supply chains, and critical minerals. Blair acknowledges criticisms from both U.S. parties regarding Canada's defense commitments and stresses the need to assure the U.S. of a strong North American alliance. The article also covers various political updates, including Michael Ignatieff's award, Alberta's wildfire situation, and other domestic and international political events. South China Morning Post: The U.S. House Committee on Oversight and Accountability has approved bipartisan legislation to restrict business with leading Chinese biotech companies due to national security concerns. The bill targets companies like BGI Group and Wuxi AppTech, accused of misusing genomic data and intellectual property. Representative Raja Krishnamurthy highlights the risks of these companies' ties with the Chinese military. The bill, which still needs full House and Senate approval, aims to reduce U.S. reliance on Chinese biotech. The legislation has caused market fluctuations for the targeted companies but includes waivers to avoid disrupting medical supply chains. The revised bill allows U.S. entities until January 2032 to end contracts with these firms, balancing national security with economic considerations. Foreign policy. The recent transition of power in Singapore has brought Lawrence Wong to the forefront as the new prime minister, succeeding Lee Hsien Loong. Despite the smooth succession, there is an undercurrent of anxiety about Singapore's future stability as a small, ethnically diverse nation. Lee Hsien Loong, in his final address, emphasized the importance of maintaining political stability to avoid the pitfalls of populism and tribalism. The People's Action Party, PAP, which has governed since independence, faces growing calls for political diversity and more robust discussions on social issues. The next general election will be crucial for Wong, who must navigate a changing political landscape where younger voters are increasingly open to alternatives. South China Morning Post, the Hong Kong Jockey Club and the Institute of Philanthropy have partnered with the Palace Museum to promote Chinese culture and nurture arts tech talent. This collaboration, marked by a memorandum of cooperation, involves a significant donation to support cultural exchange and talent development initiatives. The project aims to integrate arts and technology, fostering a deeper understanding of Chinese history and culture among citizens in Hong Kong and the mainland. The initiative includes the establishment of a cultural exchange hub, touring exhibitions, and educational activities, reflecting the club's commitment to building a vibrant cultural landscape in Hong Kong. South China Morning Post, a Chinese-funded port project in Peru, part of the Belt and Road Initiative, faces legal and political hurdles that could delay its opening. The Chancay Megaport, intended to facilitate trade between South America and Asia, is embroiled in a dispute over exclusive operating rights granted to COSCO Shipping. The U.S. has expressed concerns about the potential military use of the port and the safeguarding of data. The Peruvian government is working to resolve the legal issues, but Washington's pressure and the geopolitical implications add complexity to the project. The outcome will significantly impact China's influence in the region and the strategic flow of commodities. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.